I hear okay? Yeah, it's perfect. I made a mistake, kind of a serious mistake actually, in a recent video, and I think I said that learning how to paint isn't about learning how to paint, it's about learning how to draw. I should have backed up a step or two and mentioned that actually it starts with learning how to see. Often our biggest enemy as artists is our own past experiences, our environment, sometimes our schooling, sometimes instruction. It blocks our imaginations. Okay, we're sort of conditioned to think, okay, an evergreen tree, for example. Let's just pick one evergreen tree as our subject. It's a triangle, right? With a trunk at the bottom. We see it on Christmas cards, we see it on illustrations. Sorry about the traffic. That preconceived notion and that conditioning is our worst enemy. Go into nature, look at an actual tree, draw what you see. Don't even think of it as a tree. Simply draw it as an item, an object, a subject. And you'll find very few perfect triangles. The tree will vary in shape, depending on which side the light's coming from. It's a different tree when the wind's coming from the left or the wind's coming from the right. Anyway, don't get caught up in that stuff. It's true that education can be a real bond, not a good bond. I mean bondage. Be free with it. Learn how to see things. One other thing I'd like to point out actually. Say for example, as a landscape artist, if your horizon is say halfway up the painting, you have one birch tree bisecting the painting, just for the sake of study. The sky is usually ambient light. Say the sun's behind you, and it's shining on this birch tree, which is very silvery, bright, intense colored bark. Where the birch tree sits in front of the ground, which is usually darker, that sunlight becomes intense, and visually the bark on that birch tree shines. It's iridescent almost. It's beautiful. But then as the trunk of that birch tree goes up into the sky, visually, it actually loses the high values that it has. It becomes grayer, duller, ends up being a bit of a silhouette. So although, that may in fact not be the case, it's just as bright at the top as it is at the bottom, remember that visually we perceive the intensity of the light towards the bottom of that trunk. I do hope I explained that well. Probably not. I'm probably blithering again. Anyway, have a good night.